Hello, everyone. This is Jubilee Lipsy with Awaiting Arrows, and this is the part of my channel where I talk about the journey to waiting for children and struggling with fertility issues. And one of the things that I haven't mentioned on here yet is that there's been a special little thing that God has been doing with me sort of in private in my journal on the side, and this has been something that God prompted, and I call it preemptive parenting lessons. And it's been something that God started and he always prompts. And I wanted to share a few of them with you today for any of you who are waiting on children or have children already and want some refreshing parenting tips. Because honestly, I have watched a lot of friends parent. I had have really great parents, and I remember a lot of my childhood, and my mom and I talk a lot about what worked, what didn't, what was helpful, what was difficult. And I just love, even before I was married, I felt this way. I love preparing for something. I don't believe in just sitting around and saying, well, that conversation doesn't include me because I'm not there yet. You can be, if you're waiting for marriage, waiting for kids, you can be asking the Lord, how can I prepare? What if this happened tomorrow? What would be some of the challenges that I would face, and how would I mitigate that? And so what God does is every so often he'll give me a special parenting tip, something that he wants me to think about. And then I'll write it down, and then he will show me how I can apply that even before I have children, pre-parenting. So here's a couple of them that I wanted to share with you today. So the first one goes like this. When you're triggered or tempted to be upset by something your kids have done or admitted to you, try to remember that life is not all about you and your feelings. So this issue is not merely an opportunity to just react based on how the circumstance makes you feel. It's primarily an opportunity to teach your kids how to cultivate their relationship with the Lord. And that's your ultimate job. And how you handle it will tell your kids a lot about how God actually feels about them. It's a chance to show them that God is our anchor, even in messy times. Pre-parenting, when I'm triggered, I can recognize the opportunity to grow rather than merely react, because that's not going to get any easier once I have kids. The second one is how you respond to your kids' fears shows where your anchor of hope lies. The source of your courage is the authority God has given you as he's led you to victory through your own valleys. And that encourages me because right now, pre-parenting, every battle I'm fighting now is training for my kids' battles. I'm going to be able to approach them armed with the reality, the truth that there's nothing they're going through that God can't tackle. Another one is if you don't love God more than you love your kids, you will not be able to love your kids the way you need to. Keep yourself in the love of God, going deeper every day, letting him perfect your love so there's no fear or hesitancy in it. And I can do that. We can do that pre-parenting. I don't remember who said this, but this one came from a quote that said, if you do too much for your kids, you build your self-esteem at the expense of theirs. And what came off of that was that character is built through struggle and problem solving, which you need to train your kids in so they feel equipped to tackle things and look for solutions rather than wilting at the first sign of difficulty. So pre-parenting, rather than resorting to helpless resentment against God or myself or society, I can approach my current struggles as a victorious child of the King, remembering that I'm equipped in Jesus to conquer via simple solutions that the Spirit reveals. He can show us solutions that aren't always apparent to the world. The next one is, rather than wanting to override unchristian feelings that your kids may have, demonstrate God's faithful sufficiency by meeting your kids where they are. Side note, still require godly behavior and reinforce the truth, but just show them that God is not afraid to address how they're actually feeling. Pre-parenting, don't run from your own pain or the pain of others, but ask God to meet you in it and give you his heart for people whose experiences you may not directly relate to, as well as grace and comfort for your own experiences that you never wanted. This next one is, even though your kids don't rule the roost, it's important to remember that a call to parenthood is a lifelong call to sacrificial love. And the best way to maintain this long term is by living in God's love and remembering what his love is doing for your kids. So pre-parenting, refuse resentment whenever you have to be the adult. Embrace it as the adventure you're on right now, training for bringing up the next generation. Lean into the Lord for continued childlike enjoyment through it all. Next, rather than rushing to provide a quick answer to get finished with a conversation, practice tuning into God for answers that represent his heart to your kids, because a lot of what you tell them is going to form the bedrock of their understanding. Pre-parenting, practice leaning into God now rather than simply speaking out of your own opinions or emotions. Pause and find out what he's saying and then align with that. Don't rush to answer deep questions. Think about it. The next one is similar to this. Kids are taking stock of everything around them and they're watching how adults react in order to figure out what things mean. They need adults to help them process embarrassments and disappointments and failures without allowing ungodly beliefs to form. Not every mistake is a commentary on their identity or value. Pre-parenting, we can recognize this too. Mistakes should not shake the foundation of your identity in Christ, because with God, you can face failures without fear and learn from them because they don't define you. The next one says that remember that God is able to cover what you aren't able to protect your kids from. Rest in him and model that rest for your kids so they know they can trust him with your needs also. Be willing to thank the Lord for providing revelation and breakthrough for your kids, even if it didn't come from you. And I can already do that now. I can expect the Lord to handle what I can't, and I can release everyone's needs to him and rest in his sovereign grace. Another one is, as your kids' emotions rise, quiet your tone, look them in the eyes, and communicate your expectations kindly but firmly, showing them you understand the situation and their feelings, but a meltdown is not an option for expression. And pre-parenting, I can practice this on myself. When I feel like spiraling or melting down or lashing out, I can stop to ask the Lord, wait a minute, what is it that I'm actually feeling? What is it that I actually need? And make myself communicate that to God, even through tears. The forcing yourself to think calmly brings clarity on what to do and helps you avoid something rash that you're going to regret later. So that has been a huge help in my adult life, is just forcing myself to think for a second, what is it that I actually want? I picture the Lord asking me like a dad, what do you want? What do you actually need? The next one is, you don't teach your kids respect and discipline and propriety by screaming things at them that they don't understand. Like, the world doesn't revolve around you. You're going to be, one day your boss isn't going to put up with this. That just trains them to resent the situation that they don't fully understand. You train them to be courteous, adaptable adults one day by embracing the simple lessons that require them to wait their turn or delay or adjust an expectation. That's what you're primarily teaching your kids, adjusting expectations, because that is the rest of life, adjusting, 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 adjusting. You don't go into the world demanding that the world adapt to you. Obviously, your core convictions stay the same, but as far as society, propriety, courtesy, you have to adapt your expectations to how things are going, rather than melting down because you're not getting your way. That is what you're teaching your kids, is adjusting expectations. And pre-parenting, we all need to learn this. The world doesn't revolve around you, but you do have something special to bring to the world. You're on mission for Christ, and you can't fulfill that with a self-centered attitude. A Christ-centered life will supply your needs and keep you effective in your purpose at the same time. So those are just some of the things that God has been teaching me during this time. And I hope this encourages you. I'd love to hear if you resonate with one of these, or if there's a particular parenting tip that you would like to share. But the main thing I want you to be encouraged by is that regardless of what season you're currently in, if you're waiting for something, don't shut yourself out of the conversation. Ask God how you can be preparing for what you believe he wants to call you into next season.